So the Re-Animator franchise is a horror franchise with so many ups and downs. We've got a movie in the franchise which I consider an all-time classic, but there's also a movie in this franchise which I think is absolutely terrible. So let's talk about it. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mad Blood, and today I'm going to be talking about kind of the rise and fall of Re-Animator 1, 2, and 3, which is an 18-year time span that includes a cult classic movie which is still loved today, even 40 years later, and then a second movie which is pretty wild, and then a third movie which I think shouldn't even exist, but regardless, it's a franchise with a lot of moments I say to myself, man, this has a lot of charm and I love it, but also has moments in this franchise where I say to myself, what the hell are we doing here? Also, just a heads up, you guys, I will not be talking about the 2017 Italian remake, which is called Herbert West Re-Animator. We're just gonna leave that to the side. We're just gonna talk about these three movies in the franchise in particular. So of course, let's just jump right into it by talking about the cult classic Re-Animator from 1985. And immediately with this movie, we kick it off. We're in Switzerland at the Zurich Institute of Medicine. We're following Herbert West as he's bringing his dead professor, Hans Gruber, back to life. And it's an intro that immediately hooks me in and gets me interested with the rest of this movie. It just has just the right amount, I feel like, of ambiguity and kind of mystery to, making me think, okay, what the hell happened here? I mean, this guy's eyes are popping out of his head. And then also clearly this West guy, I mean, he doesn't really seem guilty. He isn't even really acting suspicious, which is weird to me and makes me think I gotta know the story behind what's really happening with all of this. And also, I mean, it hooks me in even more with that great line just to end this whole intro when they say, you killed him. And Herbert West says, no, I did not. I gave him life. And then we get the incredible Re-Animator theme song, which, yes, sounds very similar to the main score in Psycho. Of course, many movies in the 80s were inspired by that score because that was so iconic. But this one's a little bit more upbeat, very similar, like I said, but incredible nonetheless. So iconic, so memorable. I love that main score. But then we transport to the Miskatonic University Medical School in Massachusetts as well after this. And we're introduced to Dan, which is going to be a huge character in the story, especially in the first two movies, not so much in the third movie, which we'll talk all about. But I think this is a great intro to his character, letting us know how things unfold throughout these first two movies and why he is the way that he is, why he approaches these situations the way that he does. We see him here, even though the people next to him are kind of just saying, Dan, look, man, this is a lost cause. Like, this person's dead. There's no way. He keeps trying. Yeah, he's young. Yes, he doesn't really know yet when to maybe say no. His emotions are still probably getting in the way. He hasn't had that time yet to kind of, I guess you could say, be jaded. I'm sure if you work in the ER or something else like that, I mean, it kind of messes with your psyche a little bit. Like, you probably, I'm sure, view death just a lot differently than most of the people on this earth because you see death a lot. But Dan hasn't really gotten to that point yet, but he just, he cares. He wants everybody to survive, like he should. But it just shows us who this character is right off the bat and why he's going to do the things that he does later on in these two movies. And also, what a moment when they're experimenting on that first body in the morgue and the dean shows up. Just the gore, the makeup, everything going on. Just the design of this zombie thing, the panic, the conflict that you can see inside of Dan as well. I just think in that scene in particular also, they just pull it off so damn well. And along with the cat scene also, just really shows us how great the dynamic is between Dan and West, how different they are, how they play off of each other, and just how they work so well together. And I mean, just to piggyback off of that, I mean, this cast, my God, this cast, what an incredible cast. Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton. I feel like this cast is kind of that perfect storm. I mean, a lot of them have done some stuff before this. They did a lot of stuff after this. But it's one of those movies, I feel like even if you ask them, of course, they're going to look back on their career and just say, a lot of things just clicked with this movie. The way their chemistries work together, the way everybody's kind of playing off each other, their different personalities and all that. I mean, like, you know, when people say it, you know, they have it. I don't know, whatever it is, this cast has it. And one thing that's always funny about this movie is you can have this debate with yourself or with other people who like this franchise and say like, okay, is Herbert West a maniac or is he just really committed to science? Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? You know, I don't know, but I mean, he's clearly onto something that could potentially change the world. And it's just an argument I feel like you could have for hours. But he plays that character so well, a guy who essentially puts the science and the research and what he's doing above anything else. I mean, maybe he's a decent guy, like I said, maybe he's not, but he's so business about it at all times. He's just kind of emotionless. I mean, and then with Dan's always like that type of guy he's fallen in love, you know, he's having sex in the movies. He's, you know, there's a love side to him, whereas Herbert West is so business about everything. And he's going to protect his research at all costs and do anything he needs to do, which obviously we see a lot of as all three of these movies unfold. I mean, case in point, when West objectively becomes a murderer, when he murders Dr. Hill, which to me, I feel like is 1000% basically just because Dr. Hill is going to ruin his research. He's going to ruin kind of the purity of it. You know what I mean? He clearly views Dr. Hill as not like the purist who's really into science like he is, who's really into kind of changing the world or coming up with something cool. You know what I mean? He sees Dr. Hill just as kind of this narcissistic fame whore, who in the end is definitely gonna get in the way of his research. And West knows what he has to do, and he really has no remorse about it. Speaking of the death of Dr. Hill, I mean, holy shit balls. That is a crazy kill, one of the most memorable kills in this entire franchise to me. I mean, we do get a lot of body horror and a lot of gore and a lot of moments, but yeah, this kill, for some reason, just really sticks out to me. I mean, it's a crazy kill. He kills him with a shovel that's just kind of next to him. You know, it is juicy. It is a crunchy decapitation. I feel like it's just all that, like, pent-up aggression from West, from all of probably those pop quizzes he always, you know, has trauma maybe about, from all the teachers over the years, all that pent-up aggression of the professors and the teachers all coming out in this moment to protect his research from this just piece of shit kind of a guy. I also think it's really funny, and I thought it was also brilliant, just that idea to use those little poker things that I feel like I've only ever seen in restaurants, where they stick the receipt on those little poker things to keep them from like blowing away or something, to prop up Hill's head. I don't know, whatever. It makes me laugh every time, but whatever like gaffer or production assistant or director or producer or whoever the hell came up with that idea, you know what? I hope you have moved on to do some incredible things in your life, because that is just a little small thing in this movie that I think is brilliant. And I'll never look at those little poker tip little things ever again the same way. In that moment, everyone's back at the morgue, and West and Hill are kind of having their little standoff moment. The bodies kind of pop up like it's, you know, synchronized swimming in the Olympics or something like that. But it's just it's a moment that has some great kind of Evil Dead vibes to it, definitely. So much gore, there's bodies all over the place. Hill's head is getting thrown up against the wall like it's a tomato splattering there. The Dean gets torn apart. But that moment just oozes pure 80s horror, just goodness to me. Oh, and by the way, you know what? Fuck that lady who keeps telling Dan to stop trying to save people. What are you even doing working here? Go work at Dollar General or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with working at Dollar General, but you get what I'm saying. What are you doing working in healthcare, lady? Come on now. But I do like that moment though. And I thought it was pretty surprising that they killed off Megan like that, you know? I mean, I was sitting there just kind of feeling like it was one of those moments like, okay, her heart is gonna start beating again. It's gonna happen. But I mean, yeah, she ends up dying. I think that's a pretty surprising moment, which I do enjoy. But yeah, this is Re-Animator, so you know what that means. And I love that shot to freeze frame it and cut to black with everything except for the needle. And then you just hear Megan scream. I don't know. I love that. I think it's such a great cherry on top to end a movie that I consider an all-time cult classic. All right, and of course, up next, we got to talk about Bride of Re-Animator from 1990. And With this one, I mean, a very unique intro in this franchise, an intro that I really enjoy. I mean, we cut to Peru 8 months after the events in the first movie. Herbert West and Dan are now like medics in this civil war, now access to a lot of, dead bodies because of everything that's going on with this. And they found out something important for their experiments here. And I like, what a 180 for this introduction to this movie, and kind of throws me off a little bit for the very first time. But also, I really like it. I mean, it's kind of like a total action movie introduction. I mean, bombs are going off. People are rushing into this tent with AK-47s. Dan's over here getting injured. And then just all this craziness going on. Gore, they're fighting back. And then boom, the Re-Animator music kicks in. It's definitely an intro that gets me hyped for the rest of this movie. And I think it's just overall done really, really well, and makes it feel very unique in comparison to the first movie. So now, of course, after all that madness in the first movie, the massacres in the first movie and all of that, obviously people are probably gonna sniff around and start asking some questions and starting to kind of notice that things aren't really adding up, especially when they start noticing that the bodies from everything that happened in that first movie aren't really decaying like normal. So while Dan and West are continuing their research and coming up with some new things, we're also following a detective in this story as well. He's sniffing around, getting into some things that he's going to regret definitely a little bit later. And the detective also has an extra layer of motive and a layer of revenge to him as well, because his wife, turns out, was one of the people that had died and then had been reanimated by them and is now in this mental wing of the hospital as one of the reanimated zombies. And this guy knows that something is up. West and Dan were up to something, and he's going to find out what it is. And along the way, he's going to get some revenge when he can. And you know what happens when you get in the way of Herbert West's research? It probably isn't going to end up going very well for you, because you're going to underestimate how important this guy's research is, and he will protect it at all costs. Now, his death, the detective, not as memorable as the doctor's death in the first movie by any means, but still, pretty fun as well. And I will say, when the detective takes Francesca, the hot Italian girl, up to the psych ward of the hospital to see the ones that are still moving around, that's a pretty creepy moment, and some really just nasty zombie vibes to that whole thing. I love the makeup design. I think it's done really, really well. And yeah, creepy and scary and just gross. Now, I get this is the second movie, so they can't really just have a goal of just reanimating these things again. The story needs to kind of push forward. They need to kind of try to come up with something new, always kind of pushing that scientific envelope a little bit. And in this one, West's new goal is basically to piece together different body parts from different people and make a human, essentially, just from these different pieces. I mean, in this instance, he's using Meg's heart, which is, a weird moment for Dan there, obviously. He uses the head also of this patient that Dan really connected with. But overall, this new plot of like this Frankenstein kind of a goal here with Dan and West, I feel like it's just kind of okay. It's not bad. I don't think it's all that great. It's nothing mind-blowing or anything like that. But I will say, I do really, really respect the practical work that they put into just creating all these body parts and everything, and just the nastiness of it all is really, really top notch. But overall, a new plot line with all of that I just think, like I said, it's just kind of okay. Now, definitely in this second movie, we're starting to see that, okay, Dan, you fell for some of West's stuff in the first movie. That happened once. Okay, we'll give you a break. But it's starting to happen over and over, almost falling for like this hypnosis that West puts him under. And it makes me think like, okay, Dan is one of those guys that you knew, or guys or girls that you knew growing up, who like always ended up, clearly ended up falling for all these pyramid schemes, or just was a sucker. Dan is clearly starting to become a sucker in this movie. I mean, towards the later half of the movie, he kind of snaps out of it. Yeah, but still, most of this movie, you're like, come on, Dan, what are you doing here, man? Like, West clearly doesn't care about you. If you end up dying in this experiment, he's not gonna bat an eye. You gotta realize that, man. Come on. All right, now let's talk about the end, the big climax at the end at Dan and West's house next to the cemetery. The cop slaughters everyone at the hospital as he's trying to get away and leave. He brings the patients with them, and it's all gonna go down at this house, and it's gonna be a massive, gory, just fiesta of just 90s goodness, right? And I think the Frankenstein vibes overall in this whole thing, I think are great. It's just the overall atmosphere of it all with the rain and the lightning and all of that. The waiting game to see if the experiments are actually going to work, I think is fun. And it's just basically, it feels like a Frankenstein movie mixed with a zombie invasion type of a movie as well. So if that's something you're into, I mean, you'll definitely like this. And I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun at moments. The body horror, the practical effects, all of that, I think were really cool. And I mean, if you haven't gotten squeamish yet, 2 movies into this franchise so far with all the gore that's happening, it's probably gonna happen in this movie, because at the end of this movie, as this thing is coming to life and everything starts to happen and backfire a little bit too, it is nasty as hell. And like I said a second ago, the practical effects are really, really top notch with the different limbs, the exposed muscle, everything going on with that. This thing ends up just ripping Meg's heart out of itself. The body parts start to kind of like to fall off. It's slow and juicy and nasty and all of that. I do, though, really like that part when West yells out, oh, looks like tissue rejection. And he's like, make note of it, Dan. It just encapsulates kind of like West's character in general, because all this madness and craziness and danger is all around them. But, you know, still, it's like West is still looking out for the science of it all and still trying to further his research regardless of anything else. And also at the end of this movie, I cannot help but appreciate, I'm sure, just the sheer amount of work that went into pulling off everything that happened at the end of this movie, with the bodies all over the place, the heads, the different zombie designs, and just the nastiness of all the creatures showing up and everything going on. Just the sheer chaos of it all. I'm sure the production after filming the end of this movie was probably just exhausted, you know what I mean? And it also, like I mentioned with the first movie, feels very, very similar to some of the stuff we see in Evil Dead. And there's a part of me that thinks it's even Evil Dead, but they take it even further than Evil Dead. But there's a lot of stuff to really respect and appreciate at the end of this movie. And at the end of this movie, it ends with everything in the basement, everything around them collapsing onto West. You can clearly see Herbert West just having all this stuff fall on top of him. And the only people we definitely see survive and escape from all of this are Dan and Francesca. And I like the ambiguity of that. It makes you think, okay, did they really kill off, you know, pretty much the main character of this story? I guess we'll see. With that said, though, I do think just the end of this movie in general is just kind of okay to me. Like I said, I really, really respect the sheer amount of work that went into the effects and everything, and the pure chaos, I'm sure, of just pulling off all of this. The mood is fun and all of that. Now, to me, I do think Bride of Re-Animator is nowhere near as good as the original movie. I do appreciate they tried to kind of push the experiments further, push the story further. I also love the fact that we're following West and Dan again, you know, continuing that journey shortly after the first movie. So it's a fun like bookend to the first movie if you want to just continue that story, because I mean, their characters are so damn good in that first movie. So I mean, there's always going to be a part of me that wants to continue that story. And like I said, there are some things that I can have fun with this movie, and I respect so many things in it. Not a great movie, not a great ending by any means, but still has a lot of charm and also some great characters as well. All right, next, yes, of course, it is now time to talk about Beyond Re-Animator from 2003. We're transporting all the way from 1990 to 2003. So this movie is going to be very different, just going to have a very different feel than the first 2 movies. This movie originally premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel, did have a limited theatrical run, and I will say, God bless whoever paid for a movie ticket to go and see this movie. If you did, let me know in the comments section, did you make it through this movie? Because I feel like out of these 3 movies so far in this franchise, this is rock bottom. This movie is truly an atrocious movie. And do I feel like this movie is so bad that it's maybe good? I don't know. I feel like I would need to watch this movie more to really decide. But then I would have to rewatch the movie. Do I want to rewatch this movie? No, I don't. Honestly, I feel like this movie should have never been made. It feels like just like a low budget, pathetic version of Shawshank Redemption with Herbert West and his experiments just kind of thrown in there. It's almost disrespectful to the first movie. I feel like how bad this movie is. And like I mentioned before, the original movie just oozes the 80s and oozes 80s charm. I love it so much. Whereas this movie, of course, this is a totally different era, so it's gonna look different, it's gonna have a different feel, it's gonna have some CGI and stuff like that. But I feel like this movie just has no charm. But I will say, I do kind of like the intro to this movie though. And again, like I mentioned, the intros for all three of these movies are so very different. In this one, we're following these two kids that are like backyard camping together. And then all of a sudden, the guy's sister inside of the house gets attacked by one of these like Herbert West zombie things that's completely missing his jaw. And it ends up killing her. And then Herbert West ends up getting taken away and blamed for all this in a cop car. And the kid whose sister was killed ends up finding one of his syringes with the reagent in it glowing and picks it up off the ground. And that's how the intro ends. And I feel like, kind of hooks me in for the rest of the movie. But unfortunately, as you could have guessed, I feel like the movie, goes completely downhill after this intro. So yeah, the majority of this movie, we fast forward 13 years later, Herbert West has been in jail. And that kid who picked up the syringe is now a doctor, and now he wants to work at the hospital. And obviously, the reason is because he wants to work with West, which also feels a little weird. I feel like he would be out to get revenge, but instead, he's like very inspired by West. Whatever he did with that zombie thing, he's like, damn, that was pretty cool. I want to do the same thing, even though it ended up killing my sister. Maybe, I don't know, maybe his sister bullied him or something. But after all these years, he eventually, meets West again, and he's also been saving his syringe with the reagent in it and brings that with him as well. But one of the biggest issues with this movie is the cast. I feel like the cast in this movie is god awful. The new doctor, he's supposed to be like a younger version of Dan, basically. He's like a copy and paste of Dan, but is just not good at all. And I feel like throughout most of this movie, he's doing this weird thing where for a big portion of the movie, he sounds very American. And then all of a sudden, his little Irish accent will like pop its head up here and there, which kind of throws me off. I'm just like, what is going on here? And then we also have this journalist in this movie as well. And she's been in some pretty big movies after this, surprisingly. But she is not good at all in this movie either. And maybe that's just because the ADR with her voice in this movie was way off and definitely felt like I was watching an anime movie or something like that. I mean, that did not help her character at all. They also used some of that with the other characters as well, which was a terrible choice. Maybe they didn't have much of a choice. They just had to kind of go back and fix some audio issues, I'm sure, but still. The audio and the acting and all of that with the dialogue is terrible in this movie. So going into this movie, I'm asking myself, okay, what happened to Dan? Because he's not in this movie, and they just tell us this one little quick line that Dan used some of the evidence against West to get him arrested, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but I think that's how it all went down. West just tells us about that. It's really, really quick. But like I said earlier, this new guy, this doctor, is basically just Dan. He's the same thing. He's helping West with his experiments, but there's also a romance angle. He's trying to hook up with the journalist, and all of that is going on. And I don't blame him. I mean, but he's like Dan. He's just, horny and also helping with the experiments as well. And speaking of the journalist, can you guess what happens to the journalist? Yeah, I'm sure you can. The journalist dies, and then they bring her back. Wow, never seen that before in this franchise. Very original, guys. So yeah, and again, like the second movie, they're gonna try to push the envelope a little bit with these experiments. West is trying to come up with some new things. And somehow, while West was in solitary confinement, he was able to come up with this new process he calls nanoplasm. But it is just kind of like they're jump-starting a car, but it's on a human. Somehow you electrocute these people, and then it kind of like captures their soul in this little contraption thing. I don't know. It's confusing, but that's beside the point. And yeah, I appreciate that they're trying to come up with something new, but it just ends up being just kind of weird. Now, I will say the whole prison riot thing, I mean, that's kind of fun at times, just the chaos of it all, the set design. I'm sure organizing all of these people and everything going on was, no small task. I'm sure by any means at all. But during this whole prison riot thing, we're following the reanimated warden and everyone else and all of that. And it just kind of goes on and on and on. And it's like, What is the plan here? What are we trying to do? What the hell is the goal? Are we ever gonna film somewhere else? Is there really gonna be anything that's really all that interesting that's gonna happen here? Now, no shade towards NASCAR, but it kind of feels like I'm just watching a bunch of cars drive around in a circle, but nobody's even trying to pass anybody. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, there is this scene where the journalist bites the warden's dick off and then tosses it to the side, and then a rat picks it up and just rolls it around like it's a new rug. So I guess there's that. Or when that junkie tries to get really, really high off of the reagent and ends up using way too much and his body just completely explodes. That was kind of funny. And then eventually, thank God, the movie does end, and it ends with West pretending to be the other doctor. That way he can sneak out of the hospital, take the hospital little bag, medical bag with him, and just kind of walk off into the darkness of the night. Definitely ending, you know, with an ambiguous tone to it, opening the chances for another Re-Animator movie, which I would be totally down for with the right crew, the right cast, the right story. Definitely, but it's going to need to have some charm and some real passion and some good ideas behind it. So yeah, like I said, Beyond Re-Animator to me is a truly horrible movie. I mean, yeah, there are a few frames here and there that kind of give me a little bit of a chuckle. And you know, cool, if you enjoy this movie because it's ridiculous and you can laugh about it, maybe crack a few beers and have a good time, I get it. Like, that's okay. But I feel like this movie, it's really, really hard to get through. I mean, I feel like it took all of my willpower not to just go and do something else or scroll on my phone or something and just let it play in the background. It's just painfully boring and acted so poorly and just made really, really poorly. Yes, there are some effects that are kind of cool. You could tell, you know, some work went into that. Also, like I said, just organizing this huge set, props to whoever went into doing that. I'm sure a ton of work, but yeah, not a good movie at all. But there you go, everybody. That is the rise and fall of Re-Animator 1, 2, and 3. If you want some more videos from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future videos on the channel, the best way to do that is to make sure you subscribe. All of my social media links will be down below in the description. If you want to go ahead and follow me over there. But thanks so much for watching, everybody. Really do appreciate it. My name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one.